My little son came to me and said Mom wore unusual clothes and made strange noises while talking to someone on the phone at night. Well, it's currently 4:30 a.m. and I got home at 3:20 a.m. from work to see my fiancée through the windows hurrying out of the living room holding her phone like she's talking to someone on video chat. Automatically my gut is screaming at me, telling me something isn't right. I walk in and she's clearly drunk, talking to some girl, and she quickly ends the call and is asking me how my night was at work. I ask who she was talking to and she says Jermaine's wife. I asked, "Oh, so you still talk to Jermaine?" She shakes her head while looking at the ground. "No, not very much." I look on the kitchen counter and I see she has a corset there. And I pick it up and ask her about it. "Why is this here?" She replies, "Oh, I was just wearing it to help me fit into my jeans." Really? I just stare at her. She then excuses herself to the bathroom, wonder why, and heads upstairs. I'm hearing laundry going. She's doing chores at 4:30 in the morning. Then she goes into my oldest son's room and passes out in his bed next to him. I view my house cameras. And of course she's talking to some guy. My son wakes up and he tells me Mom's been up all night. She's been pretty loud and talking to someone on the phone. I asked if he knew who she was talking to and he replies a friend of hers from work. I'm bouncing between being mad and utterly crushed for my kids. We were together for 8 years and split up for 5 years, and it hasn't even been 2 months since she's been living in my house again. My boys have been so happy living here with their mom. I'm so pissed off at her that she can be this selfish to blow up the family like this again. She's got to go. I'm not doing this again with her. I have all the evidence I need when she wakes up from her drunken blackout. I don't care if she slept with the guy or not. She lied. The trust is broken. And seeing how before she has cheated on me, I can't trust her again. There's no point. I told her she had one chance and not to duck it up. I'm laying in my bed typing this from my phone. My oldest son is next to me since his drunk mom took his bed. I locked my bedroom door so she can't come in. Edit. I have read every comment. It's just been a crazy day. I'm going to answer some questions before updating. My boys are ages 7 and 9, her daughters are 1 and 3, I am 34, she is 32. Her daughter's dad, let's call him D, is a loser. And a hoarder. As soon as my soon-to-be ex left him, he had his mom move in to help with bills and watching his kids when he has them. Let's call the soon-to-be ex H. We dated for 8 years. When I finally had enough, I left H in 2017. I spent the next 5 years improving myself and healing. I spent years in therapy and got help with medication. Focused on my boys and my career. Made new friends, got into new hobbies. A few months ago my boys told me that when D would aggravate it, he would lock them outside whenever their mom H wasn't home. After finding this out, I immediately contacted H and told her the situation. Long story short, she left him and moved out. She had nowhere else to go, so decided to move into the spare room at my house till she could save enough to get her own place. We all know how that worked out. So to the update. So after waking up 6 a.m. to get my boys ready for school and fed them breakfast, I took a look in to check on soon-to-be ex. She hasn't even moved from her original position I found her in. I can already tell how this morning is going to play out. After bringing the boys to school, I contacted my best friend who happens to be my neighbor and told him what happened. He told me to pack up my range bag and we left to go shooting. Big hobby of mine is target shooting, and we spent the morning at the range and talking. After that I decided I needed to head home and deal with the situation. After getting home I noticed on my cameras she just woke up and she looked like she was having a rough one. I know for a fact she didn't sleep with anyone. But I do know she was video chatting with a guy and was changing her clothes in front of him. The point is, she lied to me about who she was talking to, and after everything that happened in our past relationship, if she can lie and get wasted on a Monday night when the kids have school in the morning, she can't be trusted. She was already working on building my trust and couldn't be honest with me. So boom. It's done. She has zero respect for me and just goes to show she has no remorse for the way she treated me in the past. I'm not a meal ticket and I'm not going to be someone's financial security. I sat in the kitchen and waited for her to come down. She came and looked at me and looked to the floor without saying anything. I then say after a few moments. Me, we need to have a talk about what happened last night and your behavior. H, I know we do, I just want you to know I'm so sorry, I don't remember much of anything. Me, that's convenient. I'm not here to argue about what happened and what didn't happen. The fact is you lied to me last night and that's all I need to know. The cameras exposed your lies and I have the videos here if you would like to see them to refresh your memory. H, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Me, going forward. When you get home later you need to move your stuff into the spare bedroom. And you need to start saving money and looking for a new place to live. You have 30 days to get your crap together and move out. H, okay, I understand, I just really don't know what I lied about, I don't remember anything and I'm not trying to excuse my actions, I just want to talk and give you my side. Me, but you don't remember your side, right? H, well, if you're going to put words in my mouth, never mind. Me, do not turn this around on me. Remember, it's not just me you let down. You let down not just the boys but your daughters today as well. You were supposed to pick them up from Dee's place. H, I know. Me, no, I don't think you do know. You let everyone down with your selfish actions. You need to figure yourself out. Because I'm not doing this again with you. H, okay, but can we talk about this? I've been stressed out lately, I haven't had my medication in a week and I haven't talked to my therapist in over 4 months. I have an appointment with her today, I need to go to. Can we please talk about this after I pick up the girls and bring them to daycare? Me, go. She leaves and I head upstairs to bed to take a nap. Waking up, I make this update. Checking the camera she made it home, came upstairs, tried to come into my room but I loved the door. Tried to knock, but I'm asleep. She goes to the living room to take a nap where she currently is. Another thing was, I mentioned I wanted cameras in the house when she first moved in and she was the one to buy the cameras for me as a gift, and it was ultimately what gave me the evidence to her lies. Comical. I'll update more later when I can. My cheating ex by asking her for a divorce on our 5th wedding anniversary. I was inspired tonight to share this story, which I hope is at least interesting. It never fails to bring a smile to my face. After finding evidence my then wife was probably having an affair, I was investigating. Honestly, I was also looking for innocent explanations. My boss always said look for the innocents when we would investigate suspicious behavior. 2 days after I determined she'd been at a hotel instead of work, I looked at her phone. She was definitely having an affair, but the text conversation was to an unsaved number, so I couldn't be sure of her AP's identity. I had a guess that it was one person she worked with. I made the mistake of looking at his LinkedIn page while logged into my own. Some people have premium LinkedIn accounts that let them see who has viewed their profile. This was one such person. He noticed. He got worried. He mentioned it to my then wife. She always fancied herself smarter than she was, so she decided to just confront me about it, but couch it as, hey, AP, was wondering why you looked at his LinkedIn page. She was fishing, possibly trying to read my expression, as well as gauge my answer. As a rule, I don't lie. I never see the need. Lying is about fear. People lie because they're afraid of something. In this case, I was afraid she'd realize I was onto her before I was ready to confront her, so I lied. Her AP was Mexican. I struck upon a fantastic story in a flash of brilliance. Oh yeah? I never understood Mexican last names. They're not hyphenated, but sometimes there are two. But is one a middle name legally, or are they both officially last names? I know you've said his last name is Sanchez Rubio, but his LinkedIn is just Rubio. Honestly, it was a masterful performance. Still, she insisted that I ask my question while she recorded a video on her phone to send to him. I assume she wanted him to see how sincere I was. I don't lie often, but I'm a fantastic liar. The best part of all this is that they both totally bought it. Completely. Later that evening, I looked at the text conversation between her and her AP, who I still hadn't positively identified. His number was unsaved in the phone and, though that LinkedIn conversation was wildly suspicious, it wasn't definitive. Except that he was so convinced of the sincerity of my question of Mexican culture, he took a picture of his driver's license and sent it to her in their text conversation. He basically signed his name. It made me think of an old Dave Chappelle joke that he'd only believe someone was guilty if he'd held up a copy of his driver's license. Well, her AP did, which was thanks to my breathtaking spur-of-the-moment lie and video performance. Though they were worried at first, they realized they were both much too clever for me. Yes, I changed the names to protect the guilty. Edit: some folks are asking for an ending, so here's a quick version. I'm terribly long-winded. Sorry. These events took place 6 days before I went to visit a lawyer. It was the first appointment I could get. It also happened to be our 5th wedding anniversary. My plan was to ask for a divorce the next week because no one would ask for a divorce on a wedding anniversary, right? Well, the visit to the lawyer really hit me hard. My lawyer told me that no one wins. She was right. I went home from work early. It freaked out my then wife because she thought I was going to surprise her at work for our anniversary or something. Spoiler, she wasn't at work. She was at a hotel. She still doesn't know I know that. But my behavior made her very curious, so I had to tell her I suspect you're cheating. Lawyer told me not to reveal the proof. She pointed out, correctly, that she'd been lying all this time, so she's not going to stop. Yeah, I asked for a divorce on our 5th wedding anniversary. Finalized 4 months later. Finally got out of the shared house 3 months after that. We share 50-50 custody of our now 5-year-old daughter. My ex-wife still has yet to admit anything, but I don't need her to. I have lots of proof. The happy ending is that I am much happier being away from her. I feel freer to move and breathe. She used to complain about even my breathing. I can do crazy things for my daughter, like paint an entire wall in rainbow colors or build her a castle. See my previous posts. I will be posting later on my zany Halloween decorations. Freedom. Side note. I later discovered that her AP's phone number wasn't unsaved, she just wanted it to appear that way. When she saved his phone number in her phone, she hadn't used a name, but had saved it as another, different phone number. It was reasonably clever, but she neglected to save it as the phone would have displayed it. In the US, you can write out 10-digit phone numbers as 12345678990 or 12345678990. Her phone would have displayed a truly unsaved number with parentheses, she used dashes. Admittedly, I didn't notice immediately. However, the whole game falls apart when you have long text conversations with an unsaved number. That's just weird. Update. I divorced my ex-wife when my daughter was 3 years old. We moved out of our joint house 6 months later when my daughter was 4. We share custody 50-50 on a 2-2-3 schedule right now. So I'll have her Mon/Tuesday, my ex will have her Wed/Thursday, then I get her Friday/Sat/Sunday. The next week is reversed. Eventually we'll change to fixed days for Mon/Tuesday and Wed/Thursday, but we'll switch off weekends. My daughter doesn't really remember being in our old house, but lately she has been saying she misses being there. I don't think it's based on memory, but just wishing we lived together. I know it must suck for her. Bouncing between houses. Not seeing us. The 2-2-3 schedule minimizes the time she goes without seeing one of us, and the time we have to go without seeing her. But I'm very curious for the perspectives of people who grew up in 2 households. How can I make it easier for my daughter? I've been using some of my days to have picnics with the 3 of us. We do her birthday and trick-or-treating together. We both go to her gymnastics lessons. She rarely wants to do phone calls or video chat when I bring it up, even when we're on vacation away from home. Were there things you wished your parents knew or did to help you as a kid caught bouncing between houses? Found my fiancé lying drunk on the floor talking to someone. I was shocked when she said it was the best night ever. As with everyone else, my plan life was flipped upside down earlier this week. The crux of my question is it weird to want the whole truth and details from my ex? Should I just assume the worst? I know I can't trust any of the details relayed and they're not going to change anything. How do I shake this desire? Full story, my now ex, Jenna, and I met sophomore year in undergrad. I followed her to medical school. We had been together for almost 8 years this week. We had planned a wedding and huge honeymoon for May 2020, as this would be the time between school and residency. January 2020, we were as happy as ever. We had typical ups and downs, but nothing major. Our life goals were similar, our interests were similar, our families were similar and loved by both of us. February 2020, Jenna went to a month-long elective course, essentially a summer camp for medical students. It was her first time away from me for a significant amount of time. There was little cell service, but when I did hear from her she sounded chipper and like she was making a lot of friends. I started to get nervous though, when she told me how much she was drinking. Up until this camp she rarely drank, and in the 6 years together I had only seen her drunk a few times. She was drunk more than a few times at this camp, including one blackout type night. With this weird behavior and probably some personal insecurity, I started having worrying about her cheating on me. There was nothing from our past that would make me feel that way, she was just acting out of the ordinary with the extra drinking that my mind thought the worst. March 2020, Jenna got home from camp on the last day of February. She seemed excited to be home and we had some of the best closeness I had had in years that first week back, but it felt strange. She had this weird sexual energy I hadn't seen for years. She was doing things she had never done in bed before. I joked at one point and said, "Who taught you this at camp?" and she wigged out on me. April and May 2020, our wedding got COVID cancelled, our vacation got COVID cancelled, her final fun steps of medical school got COVID cancelled. We moved out of our apartment together and back to our individual parents' houses because our lease was up and we were expecting to move for residency. It was a tough period. We rescheduled the wedding for September 2020. We celebrated our expected wedding day. We even talked about getting married at the courthouse. During this time apart, I felt like Jenna had started pulling away from me a bit and was being more distant, including a trip to North Carolina to meet up with some of her new camp friends. I was not invited, and this was the first time either of us had really disinvited another on a vacation. June 2020, we went house shopping and bought a house together. When we were together, I noticed that passwords had been changed on her phone. Alarms started going off in my head with all of the previous information combined, but she assured me nothing was wrong. Her camp friends just thought it was weird that I had unlimited access to her phone and that level of non-privacy is controlling. I was also told that she just didn't know herself anymore and that I was smothering her. She also lamented the fact that there were no fireworks between us, no electricity anymore, and that she was just not sexually attracted to me. July 2020, we closed on the house and moved in. We had a few long talks this month. It felt like she was being coached by one of her new friends, saying I was controlling and paranoid. Things she had never said or felt before. We had a bridal shower for our rescheduled wedding date at the end of the month. Jenna didn't want to sleep, literally, in the same bed with me. I didn't understand why our relationship was torpedoing so fast. August 2020, at the end of the month, Jenna told me she thought she and I should take a break. I had a meltdown. Our relationship had seriously dwindled between April and August. We weren't communicating well. We pretty much stopped having closeness completely. She stopped wearing her engagement ring. I chalked it up to all the tumult in our lives. Wedding cancelled, wedding 2 cancelled, honeymoon cancelled, we bought a house, and she started the most stressful period of her life, residency. September 2020, my mental health took a turn for the worst. I started thinking about nothing but keeping Jenna happy. I worked on the new house and yard nonstop, putting my remote job on the back burner. She stopped wanting to be touched at all by me. She started staying out late with coworkers. I'm talking about getting home at 3 to 4 a.m. with near zero communication and smelling like alcohol. October 2020, we went on vacation together for the first time. It was more stressful than fun. When we got back, I finally told a friend and my parents what was going on. Everyone was weirded out. I told them everything in here and more, and I said, "I think she's cheating." My mom said she was treating me like a roommate rather than a partner. It was true. I finally sat her down and said either she was in or out. I wasn't her roommate, and if we're together she has to wear her ring. November-December 2020, we had had sex about once a month since moving into the new house. Late December she had to quarantine and essentially kicked me out of the house. I abided. The relationship was essentially plateaued at the low point. January-February 2021, beginning of January we had another fight after she got home late from a party with her coworkers. She told me she would be home by 8 p.m. and there was no reason for me to come. That got pushed back and back until one text where she asked if she could stay the night. She was also drinking heavily at the party again. By early February, to Jenna's dismay, I signed us up for relationship counseling. She didn't really want to participate but did because I asked. After the first session she pretty much said she didn't like the counselor. We each did one individual session and 2 joints. Jenna also took a vacation to Florida, driving 1,000 miles herself each way by herself in a week. She didn't want me to come. March-June 2021, our relationship is on the mend. She seemed happier on a daily basis. We got into a good groove of life together again. I started individual therapy because the fall-winter relationship issues had sent me into a spiral. I started to trust her again. She seemed to be talking to her camp friends less and was more invested in our relationship. She never left the house without her engagement or wedding band. This was true in previous months since October, but it became more obvious, consistent. We were joking as a team again. I started feeling comfortable leaving the house for long weekends when she was working. Previously I had convinced myself she would go out partying if I went away for a weekend, so I would keep an unfairly close eye on her. This week, I went on a long weekend trip with my parents. Tuesday morning, I overheard a conversation from Saturday night with a guy from the February 2020 camp. It was not a normal conversation. Jenna was drinking, sounded a little tipsy but definitely not drunk, and was flirting. She sounded like the instigator. She talked about a secret meet-up in the beginning of August and the skimpy clothes she wore. She talked about the other times they met up. She talked about next February going back to the same camp again and asked this guy if it was okay if she came, saying, "Are you worried because you don't trust me, or you don't trust yourself?" Another great line from Jenna was, "I want to see you restrained when you really, I want something because I have a feeling I'm going to be blown away impressed by it. Can't wait till February." The conversation made it obvious. I was right from the beginning when I suspected cheating. All the red flags she convinced me were nothing and that I was just crazy were legit. The conversation made it sound like they talked often. He even called back in the morning. I know who this guy is. He's the camp coordinator, married, older, and lives in Virginia. I instantly called my parents and 2 friends and asked for advice. I knew I was going to break up with her, I just didn't know how. I confronted her when she got home from work, telling her to take a seat at the dining room table. I asked her, "Can you tell me what Nick, the caller, is to you?" She said, "He's just a friend." I replied, "Oh, just a friend." And she says, "I've never told you this, but he's one of the best friends I made at camp." I pressed more and more, dropping hints of the depth I knew. Eventually she broke. Admitted to seeing him on her way back from Florida in February. I had to tell her I also knew of the August meetup. She admitted they drunkenly made out at camp and she has been in touch with him for the past 16 months on a relatively consistent basis. His wife has no idea, etc., etc. So she emotionally cheated on me at the very least, leaving me in the dust in one of the most important years of our life in terms of transitions, and gaslight me into trusting and continuing to love, provide for her. All the puzzle pieces fit. The relationship tanked specifically when they were talking the most. She wanted to break up at the end of August right after they met up. The weird "I want to drive 2,000 miles by myself to Florida in February." So let's get on to what she says happened and the details, in order. Near the end of camp both of them got drunk at a bonfire and made out while no one was around. She later added there was over-the-clothes groping. I also remember her telling me about this night, the first night she has ever thrown up from drinking. She slept on the bathroom floor and a couch in the common area. She says she was extremely attracted to him and felt the fireworks that she hasn't felt between us for years. They continued talking through March-May. Apparently his relationship with his wife isn't the best and he convinced her that her relationship with me was bad. June 2020. Apparently he asked for photos. Originally Jenna told me she sent bra, bikini pics. 2 days later when pressed she admitted to sending very candid pics. That same month, Jenna told me I could take candid pictures of her. Never had happened before and I thought it was weird to happen now in the midst of a bunch of other red flags. She admitted that Nick's inspired her to offer to me. Probably guilt. In August they apparently met up for 30 minutes before he went to work at a park and went for a hike. In February they met up for coffee. Apparently she received a side hug and 30 minutes of time after waiting for an hour for him to get off work. She said there has never been any sex, which I'm torn in believing and not believing. She said their conversations are most often about work and they called it quits on the flirty stuff around the new year, possibly Nick's resolution, to be honest. Apparently, the past couple weeks they started talking more and getting back into flirting. What this all boils down to is, I broke up with her. We're still talking. We've told some friends and family. Her mom and I cried when I called. Jenna is distraught. I can't tell if it's not being together or that she will have very few friends after this gets out. She says her mom is considering checking her into a facility lol. I told Jenna that she should notify Nick of what has transpired and tell him to talk to his wife. She relayed that and apparently he freaked out. How unkosher is it to reach out to his wife myself? I don't know what to believe and I want as many details as I can get but I don't know why. I know I can't trust the ones given and don't think they will change anything. How do I shake this feeling?